Three. Hi, my name is Marissa Weitzman, and I am the Tobin Coordinator at the Institute for Jewish and Community Research. I am hosting this podcast to announce and interview the winners of the first annual Gary A. Tobin Awards. This contest was co-sponsored by the Institute for Jewish and Community Research and Student Free Press Association. I'm here with Alex Katz, who won the print media category. He is a junior studying economics at Stanford University and is currently studying abroad in Chile. He has served as editor-in-chief and has been an active writer of the Stanford Review. He enjoys being a member of the Jewish community at Stanford and has an array of interests which include finance, baseball, and barbecuing. His article, Anti-Semitism Thrives in Academia, was published in the Stanford Review, a bi-weekly campus newspaper, on January 18, 2011. He focuses on the atmosphere on several campuses in California and features responses from activists working to improve conditions for Jews. How are you, Alex?
Doing well. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk.
Yes, thank you. So I have a few questions for you. My first one is, you've written articles for the Stanford Review about a variety of topics. What moved you to write about anti-Semitism and cover this story in particular?
It began, at the beginning of the year, we kind of established a partnership with the Student Free Press Association and with Catherine Miller, who's kind of been running their news operation. And she offered me the story in December, and I took her up on it because we've had kind of a lot of issues at Stanford, especially in the last couple of years. There was a vandalism incident with a sukkah that was built for Sukkot, and we have dealt with something that we'll talk probably a little bit more about later, the global divestment campaign, which has kind of reared its head at Stanford a couple of times over the last few years. So it's an issue that certainly strikes close to home for us at Stanford, and I kind of saw it as an opportunity to explore the issue nationally and in particular at Stanford.
Great. Yeah, it's very interesting. So, as you were saying in your article, that many anti-Semitic incidences have been reported to the Anti-Defamation League over the last 3 years that were specifically on college campuses, and you've highlighted many of the ones in California, as you were saying. Have you experienced anti-Semitism at Stanford yourself, and how did you respond to this situation?
I think kind of in the traditional sense, I've not experienced anti-Semitism. I think when you speak to the vast majority of Jewish students on college campuses in the U.S., they won't say that they're experiencing anti-Semitism in a traditional way. I think the way that it's really has tended to manifest itself in the last decade has been kind of through anti-Israel rhetoric. And in the article, I discussed Natan Sharansky's 3D test for anti-Semitism, kind of with regards to Israel rhetoric. And I think in some cases, frankly, probably in a lot of cases, anti-Israel rhetoric on college campuses is failing that test. In some ways, it really is implicitly anti-Semitic. Even if kind of the people making these arguments don't view it as anti-Semitic, I think implicitly there's something there. So, no, I haven't been, called out for being Jewish, but the divestment campaign on campus, I guess I probably should give a little bit of background on that. So the global divestment campaign has kind of been an effort over the last few years of channeling kind of anti-Israel rhetoric and activism toward a single goal, which is to get universities to divest from Israel, to get companies to divest from Israel. In a lot of different ways. So at Stanford, they called on Stanford to stop investing in certain types of defense companies and those sorts of things that have operations in the state of Israel. And that's really just kind of a leaping off point for really a big, broader discussion of Israel issues. And my personal experience with the divestment movement, as I said before, I think it does fail that 3D test. And so that was kind of something I tried to look into more in the article, and then also look at how it's manifested itself at other college campuses. I would say that I think at Stanford we're relatively lucky. It tends to be, frankly, a relatively politically correct place, which means that explicitly anti-Semitic comments and really a lot of anti-Israel comments are frowned upon. And in the article, I highlighted other examples where it's frankly quite a bit worse. At UC Irvine, a number of years ago, there really was, based on the descriptions I heard, a really, really bad situation that began, I think, with anti-Israel sentiment and really devolved into what I would term even traditional anti-Semitic rhetoric. So
do you think,
we can see ourselves like.
oh, great, thank you. So do you think that that there are certain measures or responses that are more appropriate for campuses that experience certain type of anti-Semitism, like, for example, UCI or UC Santa Cruz compared to Stanford? Or what's your take on that? Do you think that
Yeah.
students should be more involved, or do you think that the faculty should be more involved, or that national organizations should be involved and respond to this? To what
Yeah.
extent?
Yeah, I can't really speak to the UC Irvine situation just because I didn't deal with it personally. In the case of Stanford, I think the situation has actually been handled relatively well. We're really lucky to have a wonderful staff at our Hillel that actually was quite active. Whereas on the other hand, the reports coming out of UC Irvine were that the Hillel there was really not active enough in trying to combat that. At Stanford, Rabbi Michael Copeland and a lot of the staff at Hillel was incredibly supportive as we kind of dealt with this divestment issue. And I mean, it definitely rallied a lot of support within the Jewish community. The community at Stanford is not incredibly large, but this was kind of seen as a significant threat. And what I think kind of ended what came out of a lot of this debate that could have really gone quite negative. And the situation at Berkeley with their divestment movement, it became incredibly negative, incredibly polarizing, and in my view, incredibly unproductive. At Stanford, a lot of that, those kind of sentiments in each camp were really kind of directed toward a much more productive discussion. And at the very least, a kind of all-out, rhetorical war was avoided, which I think was for the best.
Yes.
And I think you can kind of credit Stanford students a lot for that. I interviewed a number of Stanford administrators that kind of spoke to the way Stanford students kind of handle these types of issues, and for that, like I said, I think we're incredibly lucky that we.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah. No, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again, and congratulations for winning this year's Gary A. Tobin Awards. And yeah, have a blast in Chile.
Thank you so much.
Bye.